And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Friday evening. Hopefully you guys had as good of a day as I did. But that's aside from the point. What a great day the Chicago Cubs had, bringing in Kyle Tucker. An even better day for the Houston Astros, as I believe they absolutely trounced the Cubs in that trade. They did a really great job peddling 1 year of Kyle Tucker into a great future for their franchise. They were in a tough spot going into this offseason with the possibility of losing another key member of this championship run that they've had, and they turned that around and brought in Paredes, who could easily fill in for Bregman if they lose him in free agency. They get a couple of good young prospects, and now they have the money to go out there and sign Christian Walker or Anthony Santander, who reports say that he's looking for a 5-year deal right now. The Texas Rangers, according to John Heyman, could be that mystery team that's in there for Corbin Burnes. That and more next here at The Upside. I love my chat, man. Just before I even get on camera, you guys are already saying hey and asking me questions. I love how you guys interact with me. So thank you guys for joining once again. It's 10:30 Central Time, 11 o'clock, 11:30 on the East Coast. So for those of you joining us at that late hour, really appreciate it. The support you guys give me is just really wonderful. Really enjoy the interactions I have with you guys. So welcome in, welcome in. Let's get to some of the headlines from today. First, we'll start with the Corbin Burnes market, since that's the title of this video anyway. Corbin Burnes, it's been said, is the favorite for the San Francisco Giants. Some reports have him in there for the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, John Heyman says it's down to 3 teams right now for his services. The Giants are considered the favorite. However, there is a mystery team that nobody's really been talking about, and he believes that mystery team to be the Texas Rangers. Now, he says he understands they signed Nathan Eovaldi, but they've been willing to do more interesting things with their money this offseason than they have at least last year. Remember last year they were really strict on their money because they didn't know their TV money issues. Well, now they don't. They're the only team without a plan for their how they're going to get their product to the fans next year. But yet the Texas Rangers were confident enough to give 7 years, $190 million contract in front of Max Fried, and then they turn around and pivot to Nathan Eovaldi. Similar money here. Now I'm still kind of hoping and praying for this one if I'm a Rangers fan, and that's exactly what I am. Remember that before Jacob deGrom signed with the Texas Rangers, the Rangers had looked at Corbin Burnes as that's the guy we want to be the front line of our rotation before they signed Jacob deGrom. If he hadn't signed with them, I believe the Texas Rangers would absolutely have cornered the market on Corbin Burnes already if they didn't have the money already spent on deGrom. But what a move this would be for Texas. I mean, you look at the rotation as it stands right now. You got a lot of injury risks, a lot of guys who have up and down years the last couple of years. But when it's right, they should be a great rotation, even with the pieces that they have. Some good young youth coming in. And, of course, there's always the Sasaki angle that every team is hoping for right now. But look at it. You got Jacob deGrom, if he's healthy, probably the best pitcher in the sport still. Nathan Eovaldi gives you some consistency, playoff pedigree. Then you kind of have a little bit of a drop-off to the rest of that rotation. You got Tyler Mahle and both John Gray there as well. Both of those pitchers, when they're right, are probably a number 2 in a rotation at best. More likely they're a 3 or a 4, and you really got to wonder about the health of Mahle going forward. Then you get to the 5, 6, 7 in the rotation for the Rangers. Kumar Rocker, probably going to earn a job out of spring training. Jack Leiter could be the long man out of the bullpen or earn the number 5 spot there as well. There's some question marks beyond that. You have Bradford as well. You have Dunning. But if the Texas Rangers were able to trot out Corbin Burnes as their number 1, somebody who's healthy, can be their consistent guy at the top of that rotation, just like a Nathan Eovaldi, a younger version of that, the Rangers would love to do something like that. And remember, the Rangers had interest a couple of years ago before they even signed deGrom. As far as the offseason this year, they were targeting Corbin Burnes. Now, money's been spent. They won a World Series, all those kinds of things. And we're still we don't really have any confirmation that the Rangers are the mystery team. But what a signing that would be for Texas if they were able to do it. Just mind-blowing if we can get that done if I'm a Texas Rangers fan, which, like I said, I am. Now, for the San Francisco Giants, I think this would be a great move for them as well, kind of putting a linchpin in their offseason. You look at an offseason that brings them Willy Adames as a shortstop, kind of gives them a middle-of-the-order bat, which they haven't had for years. They possibly sign another ace to go along with Logan Webb. That's a great plan here for the San Francisco Giants. Then, of course, you bring in, say, a Paul Goldschmidt at first base. You go into next offseason and possibly bring in Kyle Tucker. Then that organization starts to look a lot different and a lot more competitive in a very tough NL West. But for the Texas Rangers and other hopefuls for Corbin Burnes, he's a difference-making pitcher. The Orioles should absolutely be in the market. I have not heard heard the Orioles being mentioned as one of the finalists there. I've heard the Blue Jays have had significant interest and are one of those 3 finalists. We'll see where the reports where he ultimately goes. But the reports indicate that the Giants are still the favorite, but it's not over with yet. Appreciate you guys joining us from all over the U.S. and Canada. Thank you guys for joining us. Vinny, Mark, Itai, appreciate you guys joining us as well. Welcome back, Sarah. You think the Dodgers get Tanner Scott? I do. I think he's probably the best free agent target for them right now. They might be able to swing a Ryan Presley type of a deal. That would be another great move for them. So either one of those two, I think, ends up in Los Angeles. We'll see where the money goes. If the money gets too high for Scott, maybe they pivot to Presley. What's the news on Bellinger and Bregman? Welcome in, John and Sean. Appreciate you coming back. The update for Bellinger is still pretty much the same. The Yankees are sticking around the money issue right now. It sounds like they're still the front runner as far as compensation going back to Chicago. That part's not the issue. It's about getting the Cubs to bite down on some of the money left on Bellinger's deal. With them having to pay now Tucker and Suzuki in their outfield, I doubt they're willing to eat some of the money on Bellinger. I think the Yankees are ultimately going to have to take almost all of that deal. Maybe the Cubs chip in, say, a couple of million. But beyond that, I don't think they're going to offer too much more than that. But Bellinger, still the favorite anyway to go to the Yankees. Bregman, update there is basically the race is still down to about 4 teams. Astros are taking a little bit of a back seat, but Detroit is still in there. Red Sox are in there. Toronto is still in there as well. And on the periphery of this conversation is the Philadelphia Phillies. Remember, if they move Alec Boehm, they would have an opening at third base. Bregman would fit nicely in there. So that's the update there on Bregman and Bellinger. Next move for the Cubs, I think it's going to be moving Bellinger, getting rid of that salary, bringing in a starting pitcher. They could go in either order there. Maybe a Walker Buehler signs as their number 5 starter in that rotation. I think he'd be great as a Chicago Cub, rebuild his value. Think of what the Cody Bellinger did for his career when he signed with the Chicago Cubs on a 1-year deal. I think we could see something similar here for Walker Buehler. Ryan, the Rangers definitely could have matched the Yankees trade for Williams. Sure, maybe they could have sent John Gray back the other way and brought in Devin Williams. But I trust CY. I trust the Rangers front office to be able to get their guy, whichever guy they decide to be that closer option for them. I like the moves that they've made. I think they're going to go out there and get A.J. Minter. I'm hoping they don't get Jock Peterson, but Evan Grant had a notice out there earlier today from the Dallas Morning News that they were indeed talking to Jock Peterson. I understand he had a career year, but he just doesn't profile as a player that I think is going to work great for the Texas Rangers. The speed isn't really there. It's kind of a plodding type of a player at this point, but the bat really does play. Rangers have struggled with the bat last year, but I think they pretty much had down years across the board for the Texas Rangers. They kind of had, below average career years. Now, the year they won the World Series, almost every single one of their players was beyond their career average, was having a career year. I get it. You can't expect that every season. You have to add some offense, but I think you're already going to have some positive regression in there. You make a nice trade with bringing in Jake Berger. Cost you next to nothing to bring him in, except for a couple of prospects. He's still pre-arbitration. Really love the deal. But I think there's other pieces that you could go out there and bring in other than Jock Peterson. He just worries me from the standpoint he's going to take at-bats away from younger players who, if they're right, should be in the lineup ahead of him. And for me, that's Evan Carter, who's going to be reporting to spring training healthy. That came out from Jeff Wilson and Evan Grant today, is that he's progressing nicely in his rehab process and is on track to be healthy at the start of spring training. I want all the at-bats at the major league level I can get for him. And if you're bringing in Jock Peterson, that's not exactly a formula to get Evan Carter where he needs to go at the major league level. I understand you're trying to win a World Series. I understand you don't want to necessarily have to get somebody experienced at the major league level and struggle with him through those issues. I get that. But Evan Carter profiles as a significant cornerstone player for the Texas Rangers. That's why I don't necessarily like the idea of them signing Jock Peterson. But I agree with you there. They could have matched the deal for Williams, but I think that Chris Young deserves a lot of leeway there when it comes to the bullpen and any other pitching moves he makes. Almost all of them have seemed to work out. Everybody told him to not go after Nathan Eovaldi the year he signed him the first time because they had already spent so much in free agency, bringing in DeGrom and having John Gray already there and Andrew Heaney. Yet he went out there and said, hey, I'm not done adding pitching, and he brought in Nathan Eovaldi. Then, of course, the year they win the World Series, he goes out there and doesn't just add one starting pitcher in Max Scherzer. He adds another one in Jordan Montgomery and a depth option in Chris Stratton. Pitching, and more pitching. That's the forte for Chris Young, and he's going to double down, triple down every chance he gets, which is why I kind of believe John Heyman when he says that the Texas Rangers could very well be the mystery team in there for Corbin Burnes, especially when you consider the Rangers were interested in him 3 years ago before he was even a free agent. So this does track, this does make sense. The question will be, do they really have the money to get it done? I think they'd have to offload some salaries from that starting rotation if they were to get this deal done. John Gray probably would have to be on his way out of town, or Tyler Mahle. Mahle would be tougher to trade because he hasn't really been healthy the last year, and he's got a higher salary. John Gray's been healthier, and with more consistent performance on the field, and has shown the ability to come out of the bullpen if necessary, so he would be the easier piece for another team to trade for. And starting pitching is in demand. I think you'd be able to find a suitor for John Gray if you came to an agreement with Corbin Burnes. Alrighty, Ryan, get Jock and Minter. I think Minter would be a great get. He reminds me a lot of the signing for Kirby Yates last year. 1 year, $4.5 million. I think Minter could be a very similar signing for the Rangers. They could use him primarily in the 7th inning role to start out. And if he catches fire like Yates did last year and the rest of the bullpen falters, he could easily be flexed up into a high leverage situation. So I really like the idea of A.J. Minter coming to Texas. News on Bellinger. Bellinger, again, is most likely going to be traded to the Yankees. Sticking issue is money. Mariners are still in the market there as well. Ethan, I think the Rangers are going after Burnes bad. It's possible. This is the type of move CY does. Comes out of nowhere and makes a huge signing. Remember when Eovaldi signed, it was after he got the work done in starting rotation, and then he found an opportunity there with Eovaldi because he was still sitting there on the market, and he went to the ownership group there and said, hey, we got an opportunity here, and it worked. It won him a World Series. He's got an opportunity here with Burnes still sitting on the market. Maybe he does the same thing going to owners saying, hey, I can get you off of $13 million this year. We can probably still stay under the tax. We might have to go a little bit cheaper in the bullpen, but you'd rather have DeGrom, Burnes, Eovaldi as your 1, 2, 3 in your rotation, I believe, than spend a lot of money at the back end of your bullpen. And there's ways for the Rangers to save money by trading away John Gray, by trading away Nathaniel Lowe if they need to. I think Burnes is that dynamic of a player that if the Rangers wanted him and the money was there and he wanted to sign with the Rangers, they could figure out the money. They could figure out a deal that makes it work. And, that's kind of what I'm hoping for as a Ranger fan. But, as a Giants fan, I would be hoping just as hard for him to come in there and be the number 2 behind Logan Webb. I think that'd be a great rotation for them and kickstart a really great season for them. Kind of some growth there with Buster Posey leading things. And then next year, possibly Kyle Tucker joining them. Welcome back, Caleb. Mets still need help. Yes, they do, Vinny. They're still looking for first, third, starting pitcher, and relief help. So pretty much all over the board right now. Starling Marte is on the block right now. They're willing to eat some money on that deal, obviously. He's making like $20-ish million, maybe a little bit under that. But he's no longer the player that he used to be. Health has really caught up to him. Injuries, speed is starting to deteriorate. Contact rate is also deteriorating. He's a player with not much left in the tank, and so a team that's looking to just have a little bit of an improvement in the outfield spot and willing to take 1 year of Marte should be looking at Marte as an option, but he's not exactly a name that's in demand right now. But the Mets are doing pretty much anything to improve their roster, clear off some active roster space as well. That'd be one great move there. Ethan, Evan Grant Rangers are in deep talks with Jock. I know you don't want him, but he completes the lineup. He would solve the need for a left-handed hitting outfielder. I get it. I would prefer a different hitter than Jock Peterson. I would prefer Jurickson Profar, for instance, a speedier player, somebody you can put at the top of your lineup. Somebody posted in the chat the other day about Luis Arraez being available from the Padres. I don't think there's a spot on the roster currently for him, but he would be a great guy at the top of the lineup. I'd prefer him even over Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson, of course, is a free agent. You'd have to trade for Arraez. I get it, prospects, etc. I just really worry about the Rangers taking at bats away from Evan Carter by bringing in a Jock Peterson. Now, if you bring in somebody lesser that doesn't cost as much, then we might have a conversation here about what they could do. But I just don't think Jock is necessarily a great fit, especially when you consider Carter. But Carter didn't have a great year last year. Of course, injuries, but he really struggled against lefties. They basically had to pull him towards the end of his healthy run with the Rangers last year. Langford, I think, is going to have a big year next year. Expect the power to really pop off the screen next year. It took him almost 2 months to really hit his first home run last year, and I believe it was an inside the Parker as well. He basically has crushed the ball every level he's ever been at. College level, single A, double A, and then he went basically straight to the big leagues last year. And I expect him to kind of knock the cover off the ball next year as well. I think he got his feet wet this past year, played the full 162, the ups and downs, people learning how to pitch to him, how to pitch around him, etc. And he learned a lot this year. And so I'm expecting a big second year from Wyatt Langford. Sean, seems like the Cubs are looking for a third baseman. Absolutely. They just traded away their own in Isaac Paredes. Makes some sense. Ethan, if you got Jock, would you learn to love him? I mean, I guess he would be a member of the Rangers at that point. I'd have to learn. John, what's the news on Bellinger and Bregman? Bellinger, sounds like the Yankees are the front runner there. No other team has really been connected nearly to that level. Bregman, basically 3 or 4 teams are still in the mix there, with the Phillies still on the periphery. Detroit, Boston, Toronto, and to a lesser extent Houston. Philly, of course, only if they trade Alec Bohm. Front runner for him, sounds like it could be one of the top 3 there, Detroit, Toronto, or Boston. Yankees, I think, might pivot to him if they miss on Bellinger. I think they might even pivot to him anyway after missing on Tucker. Not exactly a great fit situationally, but we'll see, how they ultimately end up working things out there. Sean, I think the Cubs are looking for a third baseman to replace Paredes. Absolutely they are. Musica, what is happening with the Cincinnati Reds? Any rumors? There's actually quite a bit happening around there. They're looking at some starting pitching. Nick Pivetta has been mentioned there as a fit. A few other options as well, but they're looking to add to that rotation right now. They've got some really good young pieces on the offensive side. They're just trying to round out that rotation. They've already added one piece via trade that they sent Jonathan India out to the Kansas City Royals. they brought in Brady Singer. I think it's a good deal for them, but they're still looking for more pitching. Pivetta would be a good improvement for that rotation. That rotation still has some question marks, especially when you consider the health and the youth in that rotation. Bringing in a Pivetta would be a nice piece for them this offseason. Astros want Nolan Arenado. I have heard that one before, but not since Paredes has been dealt to them. So I would wonder about the national media if they need to check in on that just to verify that they're still in there for an Arenado. I would wonder about the the Cubs now being a team that would fit for Arenado. In the division, be tough for the Cardinals to trade him to, but if they want to get the best prospect package for him, you don't cut a team out just because they're in your division. So I still think Arenado could go to a team like the Yankees, who need a cheaper third baseman. I think they could get the Cardinals to bite down on some of the money there. The Dodgers say they are not interested, but I'll believe it when I see it when they take the field for the 162-game regular season without him as their third baseman. They could use an upgrade there. Arenado is going to go somewhere. It's just a matter of where. There are so many teams that are in on him. It's tough to nail down who could be the favorite for him right now. Max Kepler would be a cheaper jock for Texas. He would. I am a bit of a Twins fan. I grew up in South Dakota when I was younger, and my first favorite team ever was the Minnesota Twins. So I still cheer for them. My entire family still cheers for them. Just had my grandma move down here about a year ago, so she watches the Twins whenever she can. But Kepler hasn't really lived up to the hype there. So as much as I like the guy, as much as I like the Twins and watching him play for the Twins, I can kind of see already the writing on the wall for Kepler. He needs to go to a team where he can get consistent at-bats rather than being platooned. Teams that have struggled offensively or teams that are not expected to do much this year. Teams like the Angels, teams like the Marlins could use his bat. Rockies could use his bat. But one team that I think is probably the favorite for him is still the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're looking for offense. He would probably be more of a platoon option there. And if he catches fire, of course, he would be probably an everyday guy. But Pirates are looking for offense any way they can get it. I would be surprised if he didn't go to Pittsburgh at this point. Welcome back, Heel. If the Mariners don't add any offense and only get one bat, I'm going to laugh. Legit question. Are they rumored to get any bat? They are interested in bringing in Cody Bellinger. That is one name that has been connected to them quite frequently, but I would still say the Yankees are far and away the favorite there. There's a few other bats that they could go for in free agency. Anthony Santander has a weaker market than I think he was expecting. It sounds like he could be going to the loser of the Corbin Burnes, Alex Bregman sweepstakes, which leaves you the Toronto Blue Jays. Astros freed up some money with Tucker going out. I think there's an opportunity there for the Mariners to pick up on his availability. Now, there's other options that they could go out there and do out of nowhere type trades, like the Rangers bringing in Berger, Jimenez going to Toronto. There's opportunities out there. They supposedly were interested in bringing in Pete Alonso. I don't think that is a prayer of happening. Another possibility is Christian Walker. They are looking for a right-handed hitting first baseman. He fits that to a T. And I think he'd be a great fit there in Arizona. I just haven't heard that one being mentioned too much on the national media side. So I just wonder how legitimately they're in there for a guy like Christian Walker. And now with the money being freed up in Houston, just like it is for Santander, now it becomes more affordable for the Astros to spend on Christian Walker. Yankees are heavy in there at that first base market as well. So Walker's going to do well in free agency. Ethan, Duran and Foscue for Jesus Luzardo, no, and no. I would not trade Ezekiel Duran straight up for Luzardo. Injuries, bad season last year, and he's not going to start in my rotation the way it's currently set up. So I would not touch Jesus Luzardo if I'm the Texas Rangers. Now, if I have injuries or if I'm still looking for some starts in the middle of the year and the Marlins held on to him, he rebounded from a tough year last year, then we can revisit that conversation. But right now, I am not trading Ezekiel Duran for Jesus Luzardo. I would be looking to offload a salary like John Gray from my rotation if I'm bringing in a piece. And that piece right now, hopefully, would be Corbin Burnes. Remember, if you just joined us at the top of the show, we were discussing how Corbin Burnes is on the free agent market. His list is down to 3 teams right now, his market anyway. Giants are still considered the favorite. I would imagine the Blue Jays are still the second team. I can't remember the second team in John Heyman's reporting, but he mentioned the Texas Rangers could very well be the mystery team in there. So, we'll see where he goes. I think the Giants still ultimately get him, but Texas has had interest in Corbin Burnes for at least 3 years now, and it doesn't surprise me that they could be the mystery team here. It's just surprising that John Heyman, of all people, says the Rangers are that team or could be that team. So we'll see where he goes. John, what's the news on Bellinger and Bregman? We just updated that one as well. Bellinger, of course, still looks like he's going to go to the Yankees. Bregman sounds like one of the Detroit Tigers, Red Sox, Blue Jays, possibly the Astros, and if Bones moved, the Phillies. Mark, the mood in Canada regarding the Jays is frosty. Ooh, that's an interesting one. I'm a long way from Canada. I know you guys were posting where y'all were from, so I know the Jays are kind of the national team there, but the Jays are in a tough spot. I mean, they have to win. We'll see where they go as far as a direction here. For me, I would try to bring in Alex Bregman and then try to fill out my roster from there. Possibly Anthony Santander. Maybe I can steal away Sean Manaea. That would be the way I would go. It sounds like their options right now are Bregman 1, Burnes 2, and then whatever's left is their third option. So we'll see where the market goes for the Jays. They have lots of money to spend, and they have to save their jobs, so they will spend that money. Heel, please stop. I don't want Kepler touching this team. I wouldn't quite go that far. I mean, if you can get him for, say, 1 year, $5 million, 1 year, $7 million, I would consider Kepler to the Texas Rangers. But I don't think you're going to get him for that price. I think that the favorite here is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think he's probably going to get a 1 year, $10 million deal from them. And I just don't see him as a great fit for Texas. But if you can get him cheap, any player that you can get cheap, or less than $8 million, which is the worth of one win right now in Major League Baseball, then hey, I'm all for it. That's a type of contract. Hey, if it doesn't work, you cut him, you trade him. There's options for you. You're not necessarily hamstrung with a bigger deal. $10 million really eats into what else they might be able to do this offseason as far as the bullpen, rotation, another bat, all those kinds of things. So I wouldn't want him at a $10 million valuation, but say 5, I'd be less negative about it. I still would prefer something different, but I'd be less negative about him coming to the Rangers. John Heyman called DeGrom to Texas, so there's that. I agree. John Heyman was actually bullish on the Rangers' possibilities when they were first building out this roster. Remember, he was bullish on the Rangers' ability to add one of these shortstops in the shortstop winter that year when Seager, Simeon, and a whole bunch of other guys hit the free agent market all at the same time. He said the Rangers would walk away with at least one of those guys. Now, nobody in the world had them walking away with 2. They ended up signing Simeon first. They got the 7 for $175 done. And then they said, hey, we're not done yet. And then quickly signed Corey Seager, quickly signed Cole Calhoun for the outfield, and they quickly signed John Gray. Three out of those 4 moves ultimately worked out for them. So we'll see, if John Heyman's right here. If Burnes ultimately has the Texas Rangers in there as that third team, the mystery team, quote unquote. Gotta love John Heyman. He loves a good mystery team, and this is the first real mystery, quote unquote, team we've had this offseason. So if Texas is that team, 1, and 2, if they ultimately win the bidding, you got to give your props to John Heyman. Now, if they don't turn out to be the mystery team or they don't end up signing him, it's all for naught. I still think the Giants are the favorite here, but it's interesting that the Rangers are at least could be one of those teams that's in there at that number for Corbin Burnes right now. In case you're wondering, Corbin Burnes does not have a qualifying offer attached to him. Remember, he was traded, I believe, to the Orioles before the season. I don't think he has a qualifying offer anyway. I could be mistaken on that one. But either way, I think it'd be worth it for the Texas Rangers, even if they did have compensation attached to him. But the deal for him is probably going to be 7 years, $210 million. They were willing to go 7 for $190 for Fried, but remember that was before they had made the deal with Nathan Eovaldi. There's nothing in the world that says one was independent of the other, but there's nothing in the world that doesn't say that either. So the money that they may have had for Fried might not be available anymore after they signed Eovaldi, but they still have roughly have about $20 million to spend before they get to the luxury tax, depending on whose sources you believe. I think there's a pathway for them to clear off another $20 million if they really wanted to sign a guy like Burnes and then still add to that bullpen. There is the opportunity if they wanted to get into that market to where they could do it. Corbin Burnes signs for, say, the first year is $18 million, and then you kind of backload the deal, have a big signing bonus on it as well. The luxury tax impact this year might be a little bit less this year and kind of a little bit higher towards the back end of that deal when you have more money when the luxury tax threshold's a little higher. All things to consider. The Rangers did that with Nathan Eovaldi's deal. The first year of his deal was only $18 million. Second year was 25. Third year was 20. Signing bonus of 12. That's not going to be paid till 26 and 28. So the Rangers kind of cut their luxury tax bill this year on Eovaldi, but increased it on years 2 and 3 in that deal. So, the Rangers could do something similar here for Burnes if they really wanted to get something done there. Sean, who going to trade for Stroman? I have not heard Stroman's name out there too much. For me, I think he probably still starts the season with the New York Yankees. I don't think he really goes anywhere. They have a really good rotation, though. You have Garrett Cole, 1, Fried as your 2, Rodon as your 3. Stroman probably projects as your number 4 right now, and Luis Gil as your 5. I think they're going to hold on to Gil now that Tucker is off the board. I don't think there's a trade target out there that would be worth giving up a Rookie of the Year type of season from Luis Gil, a guy who they believe could be a number 1 in their rotation and cost controlled for the next 5 years. So, the Yankees, I think, would be wise to hold on to the rotation pieces right now. They don't have a whole lot of depth now that Cortez is gone as well. They're basically limited to Clark Schmidt, maybe Clayton Beeter as well. And beyond that, they still need to add some long relief options out of that bullpen. Guys who can also take the ball on a spot start every now and again. They still need to add an 8th inning guy. They need a first baseman. They need a center fielder. That's why I think Bellinger would be a great fit there. It's just a matter of where the money is going to go there. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. We've gained close to 35 different subscribers so far in just the last 36 hours. So thank you guys for joining us. It's been incredible having as much communication with you guys as we have. I think this is our 3rd or 4th live that we've done today alone. And we'll be live again tomorrow for you. We'll be live around, I want to say 10 or 11 is probably what we'll end up doing to start things off in the morning. We'll do an evening live as well. I have been off for the majority of this week anyway, so it's been nice being able to cover baseball as closely as we have. Did a couple of reaction videos to the signing, or the trade anyway, of Devin Williams, and we did another live of the Kyle Tucker trades. Just to recap those deals, Kyle Tucker goes to the Cubs. The Yankees were really trying to push hard for him, but ultimately the Cubs turned out to be the better fit. All along, we thought it was going to be Paredes, Suzuki, and a couple of other pieces at the back end of it to ultimately go to Houston. Suzuki ultimately stays in Chicago. Sounds like Houston didn't want to pay the salary for Suzuki. When you think about it, Suzuki is going to be making $18 million, count $19 million against the tax, I believe. You have a guy in Anthony Santander who's on the free agent market who's probably going to get $20 million per season over 5 years. I would rather have Santander than Suzuki, so they go ahead and save the money on Suzuki, bring in Paredes, a guy who they really wanted last year at the deadline. They free up some more money to go after Santander and possibly a Christian Walker, another guy who they really valued at the deadline last year. And they could pivot quickly here. Ryan Presley is still on the market. For the Chicago Cubs, they ultimately give up Paredes, Smith, and Wisniewski. Pretty good deal here for Houston. They give up 1 year of Kyle Tucker, and they basically add a premium asset to their farm system in Cam Smith. He was the Cubs' number 7 prospect, but has really been tearing up the minor leagues. One of the best pure hitters in all of the minor leagues right now, so a good addition for them. And then, of course, Paredes is the linchpin of this trade for them. He was an extremely valuable piece for them at the deadline. That's why they wanted to bring him in. With Bregman probably leaving in free agency, you can flex him over at third base if you sign Christian Walker. If you don't, you can put him over at first and bring in another third baseman, say Nolan Arenado. They have a lot of irons in the fire right now. Presley is another piece that I would expect to be moved, though. The Dodgers I expect to be in that market. Yankees as well. Pretty much any team in need of some relief help is going to be calling Houston about Ryan Presley. One last note on Houston. It sounds like Framber Valdez is probably going to stick around Houston. Not a huge surprise there. I imagine they would like to discuss a contract extension with him through the end of the year. But if they get to January and there's no deal signed, I would not be surprised if we start seeing Framber Valdez's name pop up in trade rumors as they might try to maximize his value just like they did with Kyle Tucker. So we'll see what happens there. The other big trade was Devin Williams going from the Milwaukee Brewers to the New York Yankees for a package that includes Nestor Cortez, Caleb Durbin, and $2 million back to Milwaukee. I gave the trade an A++ for the Brewers. I just love the deal for them. They needed a starting pitcher. They get one. They get the Yankees to pay down his salary. Williams and Cortez were making very similar deals. they were not going to be able to re-sign Devin Williams in free agency. There is a chance they could even get an extension done with Cortez. He really fits that team. I think he's going to give them some good innings out of that rotation. Remember, he threw about 170 innings last year for the Yankees. I think he's going to do well for the Brewers. They needed somebody to come in there and soak up some innings, and now they don't have to go into the free agent market and spend top dollar to bring in a number 4 type starter just to sop up innings. They get Cortez in there, probably going to pencil in there as probably their number 2, 3, or 4 starter, depending on how his form comes back to him. But he looks like a type of guy the Brewers would go after. Low-cost guy. They basically are going to be paying $5 million for him this year. They get a good hitting infielder as well, only 5'6". Kind of think of Jose Altuve without the power. That's what they got in the prospect there as well. For the Yankee side of things, they get an elite closer, probably the second best closer, third best closer in the game right now. Has a little bit of variance, has a little bit of issues though off the field because remember, the reason why he had injury was because of this whole thing. He punched a wall. He didn't really think about it. Mason Miller did the same thing in Oakland, didn't think about it. Come on, guys, let's keep our value a little bit higher. Value our most valuable asset in our pitch hand, and don't punch a wall. Seems like common sense to me, but who knows? Maybe the major leaguers need a sign on their walls that say "Don't punch me." I don't know. But anyway, when will we see more action? We saw a pretty good amount of action today. I think we'll see a lot more tomorrow as well. Bellinger, I think, probably gets done tomorrow. Then I would expect the Christian Walker, the Alex Bregman, Corbin Burnes market to really get going. Relief pitching, I think, is going to start coming off the board probably tomorrow as well. I'd expect at least a couple of more guys off that relief market to be signed or traded before we get to Monday. Welcome in, Mr. Wynn. Appreciate you joining us once again. So many good free agents left. I couldn't agree more with you, Ethan. Mariners need a big move for a bat. They need to keep up with the division. Couldn't agree more. They need a bat. They need protection for Julio Rodriguez. I'm curious to see if they do the trade that sends Luis Castillo and money to the Phillies in exchange for Alec Bohm. We'll see if that deal gets done. Sean, Suzuki could still get traded. He doesn't want to be a DH. Sure, Suzuki really has been a decent player for the Cubs. To say he's worth the $18 million that they're going to be paying him next year, I think would be a little bit of a stretch. He's still a decent player, though. A team that's willing to take on some of the money. A team that needs a bat. We'll look at the Mariners since we just mentioned them. Say the Cubs eat, $10 million of that deal. The Mariners would pay $8 million. The Mariners might give you a couple of bullpen pieces, minor league bullpen pieces that might fit in with the Cubs' long-term plan. The Cubs end up saving $8 million. They turn around and use that money to add to their rotation, spend it on Walker Buehler, whatever they decide to do. But that's a possibility there as well. Mr. Wynn, what do you think about the Cubs so far? I like what they've done so far, but I still wonder about the long-term abilities for them to sign Kyle Tucker. Not a huge fan of the trade, but I am a fan of the player. I like them taking the risk here, getting the player. And, maybe they convince him to stay. Maybe they get a jump on it. He says he wants to go to free agency, and I think he will still go to free agency. But they did take a big risk here, and it had better work out. We'll see what happens. Ethan, Santander to Seattle. Santander's basically been the, forgotten guy here. The also-ran guy here in free agency. If everybody misses on their top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 targets, then they're turning to Santander. So I wonder if Santander just takes this and says, hey, Astros, you just cleared some money. You need to fill in for Tucker. Sign me. Maybe he gets a quick deal done there. Seattle needs to get something done. Toronto's kind of playing with their food a little bit here, not getting Bregman, not getting Burnes done. I think those guys are waiting on other things to develop, though. It's not all Toronto's fault, but there's an opportunity here to strike on Santander because the Yankees aren't interested. Red Sox are said to be looking at other things right now, looking at some rotation possibilities. Bregman's still in the works there as well. There is an opportunity here to go ahead and land Santander before these other teams, miss on their top guys and then start offering more to him. So, Santander could be waiting for his market to develop a little bit more as well. That's always an option for him. But I think he'd be a good bat for Seattle. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Just a reminder, we'll be live again for you guys tomorrow afternoon. Let me go ahead and update our Twitter page just to make sure anything else is happening or not. Does not look like it on Twitter. Let's check MLB trade rumors. Doesn't look like it there as well. So in case you guys are just joining us for the last couple minutes of the show, anyway, Williams goes to the Yankees for Nestor Cortez, a prospect in Durban, and a couple million. The Cubs get the best player of the day anyway in Kyle Tucker, the one star that was traded in exchange for Paredes, Smith, and Wisniewski. A couple of great trades. Hopefully we have some more activity tomorrow. Seattle needs 3 hitters. They need at least one. They need, to me, a solid option in that lineup to protect Julio Rodriguez. Getting a couple more hitters wouldn't hurt. Do you think the Cubs have a? I'm guessing you're saying a 90 winning or 90 plus win team. Very possible. Um, I would say they're on the precipice of it, depending on what they do with the rest of that lineup and that rotation. If they bring in Walker Buehler, trade away Bellinger and Suzuki, bring in another first base guy, trade or bring in another outfielder, to help them out. I think they'd have something working a little bit. I think the Brewers probably would have something to say about it, but I would say they would be an improved team off of last year. Welcome in, JRP. What's going on with Burnes? So the mystery, it's basically down to 3 teams right now, according to John Heyman. The Giants are still seen as the favorites. I can't remember who he said was the other team still in there. I want to say it was the Blue Jays, but it could be the Red Sox. In either event, Burnes is still out there on the free agent market, but he says there's a mystery team in there, and he believes that mystery team to be the Texas Rangers. Now, remember the Rangers 3 years ago, before they signed Jacob deGrom, had heavy interest in signing Corbin Burnes when he was going to become a free agent. They also had interest in trading for him. That, of course, never materialized. So it's no surprise to see the Rangers having interest there. Now, of course, the Rangers have shown a willingness to spend money this offseason. They did not spend much last year, but they've shown the wherewithal to offer a 7-year, $190 million deal to Max Fried. They signed Nathan Eovaldi to 3 for $75. Maybe that money's dried up now that they've signed Eovaldi. But I do believe there is a decent amount of reading the tea leaves that you can see the Rangers, how they could be could be that mystery team in there for Corbin Burnes. And, we'll see where he goes. I still think Giants are the most likely. I think he ultimately goes to the Giants. But it's interesting to see the Texas Rangers being mentioned as the team that could be the mystery team in there for him. Ethan, I like Texas in the West right now. I agree as well. I think they're going to improve. They're still got to address that bullpen first. But I like the Astros. I like the Mariners. All 3 teams still have work to do. Kind of a work in progress for all 3. Terry, Bellinger and Walker to the Yankees. Maybe Bregman too. I think that would be ideal for them right now. I think Bregman would be a great clubhouse leader for them. Bellinger would give them some great versatility at first and in center field. Walker would solidify things at first base for them defensively. Really would like all 3 of those guys to go to the Yankees. Just as a baseball fan, baseball's better when the Yankees are good. And the Yankees have been pretty good for a very long period of time. They're losing the second best player on their team in Juan Soto, but they have a chance to be an even better all-around team by spending that money in different places. Bringing in a third baseman, a better defensive third baseman, because Max Fried is a ground ball pitcher, it's going to be needed. We'll see what happens there. I just saw a message come across. Bear with me for just a second. Jake Berger speaking with the speaking with some media members today anyway. But anyway, back to our coverage anyway. I think Bellinger would be a great fit, like I said, because of his versatility. Could play in center, push Judge over to right, saves Judge's career long term. Pushing him out of center keeps him healthier, a little bit less wear and tear on his body. He is the linchpin in that lineup. If he's unhealthy, unable to go, they don't really have much going for them offensively. That's why they still need to add pieces to that lineup. They've done a great job building out that rotation, great job helping out their bullpen. There's still more work to do. But the lineup has to be their top priority right now. They need to get a left-handed hitter in there. They need to address first base. They need to address a center fielder. And I believe they need to address third base as well. We'll see where they go with a signing here. Mr. Wind, AL is at its weakest point, so I think the Yankees have the best shot to make the World Series. I think the Yankees are there, but there are still a work in progress for me. If they go with the roster they have right now, with the lineup the way it's currently constructed, that's going to be their problem. Houston, for instance, also has lineup construction issues. They need a first baseman. They need somebody to replace Tucker. The Rangers, they still need to add a bullpen arm or 2 or 3. We'll see what happens there. For the Mariners, they need to add an offensive piece there. The Orioles, they need to add at least 2 starting pitchers to their rotation for them to be considered the favorite to me. Red Sox have done a nice job improving. I think they're at least now in the hunt. The Guardians have done a nice job via the trade market. I'm curious to see what other dominoes fall for them, but they're still right in there. But I think it's kind of all messy right now on the American League side with so many teams in the running. Royals have done a nice job improving. Tigers have done a nice job improving. They have the Cy Young winner, and now could possibly be adding Alex Bregman. Ethan, Sean Manaea to the Braves. The Braves are looking to add a starting pitcher. They were in that Nathan Eovaldi market, so $25-ish million sounds like it's at least possible for the Braves to get there. And I think Manaea is going to command a longer-term deal. That's the issue, though, with the Braves. Maybe they give him 5 years, an extra year on top of what he might already be expecting, but require that AAV to be a little bit lower. Remember, the Braves are still looking for a corner outfielder. They're still looking to add some bullpen pieces. They're looking to go cheaper in the bullpen. They might be willing to spend a little bit more on a starting pitcher and a corner outfielder. But remember, they still have Charlie Morton that could sign there for less as well. We'll see which direction the Braves ultimately end up going. Got about 25, 26 of you guys with us right now. Want to remind you guys to join us tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow morning anyway, as we kind of go over all the headlines that may have happened in the overnight hours, break down the week that was, the winter meetings, and then we'll kind of look forward to what's going to happen next week, what moves we could look to see, relief pitchers that could come off the market, trades we could see happen as well. So be sure to join us tomorrow at around 11 o'clock in the morning. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be live again tomorrow night as well, updating you from all the action from Saturday. Hopefully we get a signing of Burnes, signing of Bregman, a trade of Bellinger, maybe even a signing off the relief pitching market, say a Tanner Scott, Sean Manaea as well is still out there. Maybe somebody in the corner outfield market moves, Teoscar Hernandez or Santander. Maybe a first base market starts to move with Christian Walker. All these things we're paying attention to right now. And then we'll get, once these guys finally come off the board, we'll dig into that next level of free agency, that next level of trade, the Jordan Montgomery level of trades that are out there right now. But be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Really does help us out. One last comment here from Ethan. Vlad Jr. Get more or less in a trade than Tucker. Right now, they're not going to trade him. I think he's going to be moved at the deadline, if at all. And that's only if they're out of contention by the trade deadline, which, you know, I think they're going to add to this lineup. I think they're still going to have a chance to make it to a postseason, and they're trying to save their jobs. So, you know, I don't think he gets moved, but if they do, I think it's at the deadline, and no, he will not be traded for more than Tucker. It will be less because it'll only be for a couple of months and a postseason run. Kyle Tucker, you're getting for a full year and a postseason run. You know, plus he's able to play in, you know, pretty much any outfield position. Vlad Guerrero is probably more of a first base DH type of guy, but with the ability to play some third base. First basemen don't really get paid in free agency. They are valuable on the market, though, as far as trade, but Tucker was the more valuable piece long-term because they might be able to sign him to a long-term deal and be a linchpin in that lineup. First base is still Vlad Guerrero's position. I think Tucker has the chance to get to $400 million in free agency, whereas Vlad Guerrero Jr. is probably going to be topping around right around 250, 275 at best. So, you know, we'll see where he goes. That number might even be high, but if Alonso's going to be getting in the neighborhood of, say, like 5 years for $135 million at what I would expect him to sign right now, maybe he signs for more, but I don't think he's getting, say, $200 million more than Pete Alonso. But thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate all you guys, you know, your interactions with us. And thank you guys for subscribing. It really does help us out. We'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. Have a good one.